I think I've got this in a pretty good position for the camera. Now, if I can just keep it here, we'll be okay. My tape doesn't stay stuck down very well, but we'll do that to mark the place. Okay, so here's where we are. We've got sort of the basics in, except there's a lot of shadow areas that aren't dark enough. And then the very darks, like the hair and the eyes and some areas, we don't have in at all. So here's my thinking on this. Sometimes when I can't make up my mind exactly what something needs, since I've got the light values in, I'm going to go ahead and put some dark values in. Let's see if this is recording. Yes. I'm going to put in some dark values here for the hair, and they're going to look too dark. They're going to stand out a little too much. But what that's going to do is that's going to help me gauge how dark I want to go with these shadow values on the face, which really are not here to any significant degree. So let's go with this. And one of the things I'm looking at, when you do something like this, you don't want the hair to look like it's some kind of wig that's just stuck on. And so it's going to look a little bit that way. And then we put the shadows in, the hair will start to look natural again. And that's part of how we'll know that we've got it right. So there are some little areas up in here. They're mostly a darker skin tone, but there could be a little bit of hair shadow in there. And then we come right along over here. Let's see, I think this comes out this way just a little bit more. Yeah, behind the ear like that. That's sort of where the hair is. Oh, there's hair, there's shadow. You know, the hair and the shadow kind of merging together. And she's got nothing coming here in front of the ears. Also, let's go ahead and let's get her eyes darker. Now, there's glare on the glasses that's messing with her eyes. And I'm going to, for the most part, not indicate the glare on the glasses. I may put a smudge or two someplace, but I'm not going to put it right over the parts of the eyes that I want to have show up. And fortunately, I have an auxiliary photograph here. You can see that she has quite a bit of shadow right in this part of the eye. There's a bit of a fold there. And so where the skin laps over, it makes an extra dark area framing the eyes. So that is an area right in here. So she's holding her eyes differently in that photo than this one. But we know that this area gets dark. It's not really lashes as much. There may be some there, that I'm sure there are. But it's almost a shadow from her skin here that kind of has a little double thing going on there. But either way, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. It means that she's got the look of lashes there. I got it a little higher than I wanted it. Just wash that back. Oh, I'm using burnt umber with a little bit of indigo into it. It still looks brown. Okay. In fact, in this photo, I can see a few gray hairs showing. But this is so dark that you can't really see it, so I'm not going to add it there. Okay, so let's work on the eyes just a little bit. I think it would be okay to... Tell you what I'm going to do. I've got this brush. It is really nice for fine detail. This is that Lou Cornell 7020 Ultra Round. It's a number 4. And I really like it for things like this. It is a synthetic but it does hold some water. I think some of these newer synthetics have got, are treated a little bit to make them a little bit more hair-like. I don't know that. I just noticed there's a difference between that and oh well. So let's see here. I keep thinking I'm seeing a little bit of pupil here. Yes. So that would indicate her eyes appear to not be totally dark brown. There, I can see a little bit of the pupil in here. Not much, but a little bit. So that indicates that her eyes are not a real dark brown. Again, when you're following a photograph, sometimes it's hard to know. So I think I'm going to put a pupil in here. Now this will stand out too much at first. See, that doesn't look right at all, does it? Okay. And a little bit of rim around the edge. So these glasses really obscure a lot. I have to be careful not to westernize her eyes, but they're sort of an in-between, in sort of an in-between world. Here, I'm just going to brush in brow marks. And from looking at this photo, is that showing the picture? Here. Let's try this. So from looking at this photo, I can see her brow comes on out here. It's just not very pronounced, but I'm going to give her a little bit of brow out here. I'm just going to frame the eyes a little bit. Whoa, getting dry now. I've got barely anything on this little brush, but the paint is still flowing off pretty well. Okay, now, let's just put a little bit more color, now that that's had a chance to dry a little bit. A little bit more color in here. Right now, particularly on camera, that probably just looks like a solid dark, but it's really not. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of my brown right here, move it over here, and I'm going to take some red. I think this is mostly coral that I'm picking up. Okay, and mix those together. It makes kind of a reddish brown. Let's see what happens here. That looks a little too red. I'm looking to treat this one a little bit more naturally than have a lot of red in it. But watercolor can look kind of dull. That's one of the reasons you see people use so much red in their watercolors. You don't see them use that much red in with other mediums. It's because the red won't be as dull. But the red will be dull in watercolor. I mean, other colors can get dull in watercolor. So it kind of makes the skin look a little brighter. So let's go for the corners of the mouth. Now that's just the shadow on the lip, not out here on the skin. And there's just a little bit more of it right up under the upper lip. Okay, so I think I want a little bit of the same color in the nostrils. Now, I don't want her nostrils to be as dark as the photos. And I think that part of that is really this is a little different angle than that one. I think that part of that darkness is just what the photo is doing there. Anyway, I'm going to play that darkness down just a little bit. And let's soften the edge here just a little bit. See, that's all just tiny, ticklish little stuff. I keep having to hold my bifocals just so I can see this. I may wind up going back and lightening that some. We'll just have to see. I'm pulling a little bit of it up there. See, I can even pull up with this brush, although not nearly as well as a natural hair brush. Okay. Let's go ahead and give her a little bit of line all the way across. I think I got a little too much dip right there in that line. It's a little bit more straight. Okay. Now let's get over here to the baby. Okay, her eyes are very dark. I covered up that little spot there with some white. You know, that little place where I think a gnat died on her lip. I mean, not in the picture. It literally died on my watercolor paper, I think. Never swat a bug on your watercolor paper. It just doesn't pay off. I did that once. Of course, I didn't swat the bug here. It was too little for me to even notice. But he managed to get squished on there somehow. Okay. I think I need a little bit. See, here's the thing. When you're working this small, then tiny little bits make a big difference. Which becomes kind of hard to do. I should switch that to this reddish brown. Do a little bit more on the eyelids. And then let's use brown right here. She's got a little bit of extra lash right here. And to make a lash, I'm not really painting out lashes. It's more like I'm putting a little bit of eyeliner on her. Okay. A little bit more eyebrow, maybe. Oh, let's thin this out. It shouldn't be all that dark. Let's try something like that. Now, I want the mixture. I've thinned it so it'll be lighter, but I don't want too much on this brush. I guess what it is when you're using a synthetic brush that's this small, the fact that the paint will flow off of it really fast, maybe that's an advantage in some situations. Whereas with a bigger brush, it becomes a mess. Just an uncontrollable mess. Okay. Oh, let's get the hair in. Okay, this is almost a scary part. I may not get quite all the hair in yet. So again, we've got, this is where we can show the straw hat a little bit. In that there's some like little scallopy looking areas there coming into the hair. And then I probably won't use this little brush everywhere. This is just too small. If I wanted to paint every single hair, this would be the brush to do it with. I have no such inclination. Oh my, she had a little ribbon in her hair and I've left that out. There's a little pink bow up there. I'm just going to forget it. Okay, let's get a bigger brush. I call this a bigger brush. I think I need a little more brown to get it a little bit, get the mixture a little bit richer. And I'll just stick with the brown for now. I'll probably darken it some more later. I can be quite chicken about some of these things. So some of this area is quite wispy. Oh, I don't want to mess this up. And what we're going to do is we're going to, when we move the shadow areas into this, see, I'm not pulling quite all those little wisps of hair all the way down yet. Gets really, really short right there. She's got a thing going this way. I don't want to get too much of that in yet. I'm going to mostly just do this up here. So this is me painting in real time here. Okay, so the brownier brown instead of the black look is a little softer. So that's going to help because I've got more shading to put here on the forehead. And if a little of that brown begins to blend into the shading, that's going to be a really good thing. That's going to help. While that's drying, let's come back over here and work on this then. Let's get some color going here. Oh, it's so hard for me to be natural with this, especially when I'm not using phthalo green. Oh, that's just difficult. Okay. I think what we're going to do is we'll use a little bit of yellow ochre. Let's try yellow ochre. That's still a little kind of peachy. I think that could be kind of nice. Here's where I could go with either this or this. Oh, by the way, of course, this is going to look funny until this hat gets some shadows, especially this shadow right here. Not having that makes this look really strange the way it sits on her head. Okay, I'm going to get that pretty wet. See, here it is right here. So right here at the temple, see that shadow? Is that show? Yeah. Okay, that shadow is pretty deep. Okay. Keep looking over and make sure I've got this thing turned on right after yesterday. And I washed my glasses today too. I'm still having trouble seeing. Okay, all of this has got some shadow on it. Even that little highlight thing on the ear is darker than this part of the face. So I've got to allow for that. Let's come up. Let's come like that. So what I want to do with this is soften this edge. All right, so right here, I want to keep that wet so I can pull it down. In the meanwhile, I want to soften this edge. And here we don't want any runbacks. I think that's a little dark right there. I'm going to give it a little blot. So again, this whole neck area is darker than up here. So let's go ahead. We're going to use some reds, but we're going to come in with some cooler colors later. I think I'm going to do this. I don't want to emphasize that area, but I don't think it hurts to show a little of it. I believe I'll leave that just like it is, but I'll make it a little bit lighter. And then I'll stop that. Oh, that looks really strange right now. Right here under the glasses, there's the shadow from the glasses. So the shadow tells you both about the shape of the glasses and the shape of what the shadow's cast on, which would be very hard to just figure out logically. So what you want to do is you just want to imitate what you see as best you can. I'll go ahead and leave that shadow as kind of crisp. It's pretty soft and fuzzy in the photo, but, well, it's just hard to know. So over here, let's go a little darker. Let's go a little darker right there and up under here. And let's put a little of that same color up into the eyebrow. Now here, I'm working fairly light. We've got some cast shadows to some degree. Some of it's a little more sculpted. So what I want to do is leave a few crisp edges, because otherwise this could just get mushy and not exciting at all. Then I think the next place I'm going to go is I'm going to work here on her nose. You can see there's a big shadow area, comes way in over here like this, and it's wide. It's wide, covers most of the outside of the nostril here. It's not very dark. Okay, so it starts, and so these are things you have to really think about the shape. When you get to where you've done it a lot, some of it may just start coming naturally, but it's still best to pay some attention to it and not just let your right brain totally take charge. So right here, this makes a shape like this and kind of comes out like that. Well, of course, that's way too dark, but you can see the shape. So let's pull some of that color up. Let's pull a little more of it up. Well, maybe not much more. That's actually pretty good, I think. I could soften this edge right in here a little bit. Don't want to soften every bit of it, though. I would rather have a few crisp edges on this. I think it'll make a better painting, especially this small. I think it kind of needs it in order to, well, just in order to be right. Okay, so here's the shape again, coming here and coming around this way and over and into this nose to mouth fold. Like there's a little shadow down in under here too. Okay, so I didn't carry the nose to mouth fold all the way down yet. I need to study it more, and this will dry very fast because we're not working. We're working as wet as we can to get the paint to flow and to be easy to work with. But these areas are so small, you can't have a big flow. So that's part of what you need to think about is okay. But I have to keep a flow. That's where some people try to just work it totally dry, and they don't generally get very good results. Now, this area comes across and kind of up over like that. That's pretty much the shape it makes. Now that's too dark again. So let's squeeze this out and pull some up. I think I'm going to have to add a little water to it. Tiny bit of water. And pull up some more. Whew. Okay, did I tell you this was going to be easy? Hopefully I didn't say that. Let's give her some lip color. She's got a little highlight right there, right under the midline of the lip, there's a little highlight running along there. And then she's got some more shadow, and I'm making it a little pinker. Her shadow almost looks a little bluish pink. I'll just have to correct that later because I went ahead and did this. Oh, well, see, again, that's way too dark. Let's pull some of that up. And I added more water again so that I could pull it up. I couldn't have told you how to do this. I had to start doing it and see what I did. That's how I work. All right, now I'm not going to claim that that's got all our shape right yet, but that's better. Now, this upper lip has got a little something going on in it, and it doesn't show up very well. Well, we're just going to put a little bit of shadow right there, and we'll do the same thing. We'll dampen it and pull it up. I think she's got some upper lip, you know, some of those vertical wrinkles. They don't really show up in the picture, so I'm not inclined to put them in if I can't see them. Okay. Let's get some color in around here. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and add a little more water to this and thin it out. And see, it's all a matter of controlling the amount of water on that brush and just being delicate with it. Quite frankly, you've got to be delicate with this or it will go south. Now, here again is that shadow at the temple. Okay, just paint a little bit at a time. Yeah, let's go ahead and work with that. This ear again over here is still, it's got shadows in the shadows, but none of these areas, none of the highlight areas in the ear are as light as the forehead. So let's put this in, and whoops, this should come up under here and around to there and down. Okay, we'll make this all one shape and we'll pull it down here, a little bit along the side of the neck, and let's soften those edges. Again, if you're working with a really small round, it's just easier to control the water flow. There are people who use great big rounds and do gorgeous things with them. But for something like this, at this size, I prefer a little bit more control. So now I need some shadow under this eye. I'm sorry, I've got to pick this up. I just can't see it. Right under here. And some of this shadow we already did. I just didn't do it dark enough. Okay. Just a little bit too dark. Okay, like there. So this dries pretty fast. Doesn't mean it's really dry enough to work on top of that much, but it's dry enough that I can work right up next to it. That needs to be a lot lighter. Squeezing that brush out. Viva is the only paper towel when you're doing this. I still don't have the nose to mouth folds. And then right here is a darker area. Comes up a little bit over the jawline and then down. She's not the least bit overweight. Okay, so I'm going to blend that little edge, and I'm going to let that line stand out a little bit, at least for now. The fact is that I've been leaning over this so long trying to see, I'm getting just a little bit nauseated. I think I'm going to have to take a break. See, again, I'm putting that shape in a little too dark and then pulling it back up. In fact, I can add a little water into it. It's just a little bit easier for me to see what I'm doing. Okay, let's do the nose to mouth fold, and then I'm going to take a break. I believe I'll leave that. Let's pull this down that way. I believe I'll leave that like that. This is going to need a little more color in there. Some of these highlights are a little too strong, maybe. Oh, I don't know. I have to think about it. I'm going to have to get back from it. And before I get back from it, I got to have a break.